I need to tell you about something absolutely extraordinary that's just emerged. And I mean extraordinary.
Meghan Markle, the former Duchess of Sussex, has long captivated the world with her glamour, influence, and carefully curated image. But now, a hidden chapter from her past has erupted into the spotlight. Her Canadian ex, chef Corey Vitiello, has finally broken his silence, revealing personal details, alleged mistreatment, and timelines that challenge the story Meghan has presented for years. The revelations have Buckingham Palace on high alert, forcing King Charles to act immediately. But what exactly did Cory reveal, and how brutal is the palace response? This is the story. Cory breaks decade-long silence. After years of careful silence, Meghan Markle's Canadian ex-boyfriend, chef Corey Vitiello, has finally stepped forward. And what he revealed has sent shockwaves straight to Buckingham Palace. For more than a decade, Cory kept his distance, quietly respecting boundaries and maintaining privacy, while Meghan's life skyrocketed from Hollywood sets to royal engagements. But his restraint has ended, and the details he shared threaten to unravel parts of Meghan's past that the public has never fully seen. Cory's approach was striking in its calmness. He did not storm onto social media, launch a bitter tirade, or make explosive accusations. Instead, he chose a methodical and controlled release of information, blending personal observations with carefully framed questions about overlapping timelines, unusual legal records, and moments in Meghan's life that had previously remained sealed from public view. Every word carried weight without theatrics, forcing observers to take notice. This was not gossip. This was precision, a quiet power that hit harder because of its subtlety. Within hours, the media reacted with lightning speed. News outlets across the globe sounded alerts. Screens lit up with headlines. Analysts, commentators, and social media users dissected every syllable, every nuance, as the private details Cory revealed became a matter of public debate. Suddenly, what had been locked behind doors, kept in carefully curated biographies and controlled narratives, was being questioned in real time. People weren't just interested in who Meghan had dated, they were now asking deeper questions about the sequence of events, the legal intricacies, and the hidden corners of her life that had been carefully managed for years. The palace responded immediately. Buckingham Palace sources indicate that King Charles ordered emergency briefings, classifying the situation as a serious institutional risk. This was not another celebrity scandal, another tabloid story to be filed and forgotten. The stakes were higher. The reputation of the monarchy itself, centuries old and painstakingly preserved, could be impacted. Every advisor, every legal mind in the royal household was suddenly on high alert. Cory's decision to break his silence had set the stage for a media firestorm capable of reshaping Meghan's public image and testing the very stability of the royal family. One measured disclosure, delivered with quiet precision, had transformed the past into a present crisis. Meghan's ex-boyfriend has finally chosen to speak after many years, prompting King Charles to call for an urgent briefing. But what could he have revealed that unsettled the king? Could he be holding a secret that directly challenges the integrity of the crown? Let's find out. Cory's calm revelation that shook the crown. Corey Vitiello, Meghan Markle's Canadian ex, did not choose the route of a dramatic public confrontation. Instead, he opted for precision, letting subtlety and timing do the work. In a carefully controlled podcast interview, he laid out a mix of personal memories and factual observations, guiding listeners through a narrative that was calm, yet quietly devastating. He claimed that during their 2-year relationship, from 2014 to 2016, he experienced emotional mistreatment and hinted that Meghan may have maintained contact with Prince Harry even before their breakup. Supporting his account, he reportedly possesses messages, notes, and testimonies from friends that corroborate key elements of his story. But Cory did not stop at personal allegations. He meticulously scrutinized timelines, drawing attention to overlapping dates and periods in the early 2010s when public records and Meghan's official accounts seemed to conflict. He referenced legal documents filed in a U.S. county that, according to experts, were unusual and highly atypical. There was no sensationalism, no shouting or finger-pointing. He asked questions calmly and deliberately, letting the facts, inconsistencies, and legal anomalies speak for themselves. This measured approach amplified the impact of his revelations. By avoiding outright accusations, he created a space where observers could weigh the facts and notice gaps in Meghan's widely accepted public story. What had been private history suddenly became a subject of intense public scrutiny. Social media buzzed with speculation. Online forums erupted with debates, and commentators dissected every carefully chosen word. The shift was subtle but profound. Attention moved from Meghan's crafted narrative of personal reinvention to a far more critical question. Was her story completely truthful? For Buckingham Palace, the implications were immediate and serious. King Charles reportedly ordered emergency briefings, categorizing the situation as a significant institutional risk. This was no ordinary celebrity scandal. It was a potential threat to the credibility of the monarchy itself. By breaking his long silence in this deliberate, controlled way, Cory set the stage for a storm that could redefine public perception of Meghan Markle and force the palace into a rare, urgent, defensive posture, illustrating how a single, carefully timed revelation can ripple across private and royal worlds alike. Cory revealed that he was still Meghan's boyfriend when she began dating Harry. But does Meghan's personality truly reflect such audacity? And what does this revelation mean for her image as the wife of the future king? Now let's uncover the cracks in Meghan's carefully crafted public image. The fragile facade of reinvention. Since stepping away from her royal duties, Meghan Markle had carefully shaped an image the world could admire. Independent, resilient, and unapologetically herself. She was no longer just a duchess. She was a symbol of self-empowerment, someone who had reclaimed her voice after years of scrutiny and turned personal challenges into a platform of influence that reached millions globally. Every interview, every public appearance, and every statement seemed meticulously designed to reinforce a narrative of transparency and strength. Her story felt like a triumph of reinvention, a carefully crafted portrait of a modern royal navigating life on her own terms. Yet Corey Vitiello's revelations threatened to crack that polished exterior in ways few could have anticipated. His accounts of emotional mistreatment during their 2-year relationship, combined with the claim that Meghan may have been in contact with Prince Harry before their breakup, forced a sudden shift in focus. The scrutiny didn't stop there. Overlapping timelines, unusual legal records, and sealed documents from the early 2010s introduced questions that went beyond personal history. Suddenly, Meghan's narrative of resilience and empowerment was overshadowed by a far more sensitive question. Could the story she had presented to the public be fully trusted? Public perception, once solidly supportive, began to wobble. Fans and critics alike started to wonder whether certain chapters of her life had been deliberately edited or softened to ease her path into the royal family. Every carefully framed anecdote, every curated photo, and every public statement now came under examination. What had once seemed like transparency now risked appearing selective, a crafted image masking complexity or controversy. The very facade she had spent years constructing, an image polished with precision and reinforced with consistent messaging, suddenly looked perilously fragile. What had been a symbol of strength now showed cracks, exposing vulnerability beneath the glamour and influence. In a matter of weeks, a reputation that seemed nearly untouchable began to shift, raising uncomfortable questions not just about personal choices, but about honesty, credibility, and the true story behind the life the public thought they knew. The facade Meghan had built with decades of careful planning suddenly appeared dangerously fragile after Cory's revelation. But how precise are his claims? Could they hold up under legal scrutiny? Let's unravel the astonishing details. Cory's calm precision. Corey Vitiello's greatest strength was not loud confrontation or dramatic spectacle. It was the power of restraint. From the moment he stepped into the minimalist confines of the podcast studio, he set a tone of deliberate control. Every word he spoke, every carefully chosen phrase, carried significance. There were no raised voices, no emotional outbursts, no theatrical attacks. Instead, he relied on precision, allowing facts, subtle personal insights, and careful timing to speak louder than any anger ever could. He combined personal recollections with meticulous scrutiny of past events, revealing overlapping timelines, subtle inconsistencies, and unusual legal records from Meghan's early years. One expert guest, a practicing attorney, confirmed that some of the legal filings he referenced were exceptionally rare and legally atypical, adding weight and credibility to his statements. Cory never resorted to labeling Meghan as dishonest or malicious. Instead, he asked questions in a calm, deliberate manner, letting the details and irregularities speak for themselves. The power of his approach lay in its understatement. Every pause, every observation, reinforced the seriousness of the revelations without overt accusation. Meanwhile, Meghan's team reacted swiftly, launching a public counteroffensive that framed his claims as fabrications or misunderstandings. Yet the contrast between the two approaches was striking. Cory's composed and measured delivery created an image of credibility and composure, while the reactive denials, however forceful, appeared defensive and emotionally charged. In the court of public opinion, tone often matters more than content, and Cory's quiet authority amplified the perceived seriousness of his disclosures. Observers, from media analysts to palace insiders, took notice. The subtlety of his method drew attention not just to what he revealed, but to how he revealed it. Calm, collected, and deliberate, Cory transformed silence into leverage, restraint into influence. He showed that in a world dominated by spectacle and emotion, a calm and measured voice can be far more devastating. But how close were Cory and Meghan for him to reveal such daunting details? And why did he wait until she was fully established to speak out? Now, let's explore Meghan's life before she stepped into the royal spotlight. Cory's silent witness. Long before Meghan Markle became the Duchess of Sussex, before the global spotlight and royal titles, her life moved at a quieter, more personal pace. During this time, she shared her everyday world with Canadian chef Corey Vitiello. Their two-year relationship may have seemed private to outsiders, but it was a chapter filled with ordinary routines, dreams, and pivotal decisions that would unknowingly set the stage for Meghan's extraordinary future. Even as Meghan crossed paths with Prince Harry for the very first time in 2016, Cory remained a presence in her life. He lived in the same home, quietly witnessing moments that would later become part of a worldwide narrative. His position was unique. He was not just a former partner, but someone who observed firsthand the unfolding events that no one outside that home could see. Every laugh, glance, and private conversation between Meghan and Harry occurred under the same roof, a fact few would have imagined. Reports suggest that after their initial date, Harry traveled secretly to Toronto to spend time with Meghan. He stayed in a friend's home while Cory still shared the residence with her, navigating an incredibly delicate situation. From this vantage point, Cory saw the subtle beginnings of a relationship that would eventually capture global attention. He watched as Meghan balanced old ties with the new, as she negotiated emotions, decisions, and opportunities that would ripple across continents. For years, Cory maintained his silence. He didn't seek fame, media attention, or retaliation. His discretion protected private moments from becoming public fodder, keeping a carefully hidden chapter of Meghan's life intact. But now, when he finally speaks, his words carry far more than personal grievances. They carry the weight of intimate knowledge, an insider perspective on the private crossroads that led Meghan toward royalty. His revelations shed light on the unseen, nuanced decisions that shaped public perceptions, offering insights that are as explosive as they are unprecedented. Cory's voice transforms from that of a quiet observer into a powerful testimony, one that challenges the narratives we thought we knew. For the palace, for Harry, and for Meghan's carefully curated public image, this perspective is nothing short of seismic. Cory witnessed Meghan start dating Harry while still living with him, and he even saw them meet in secret. But could there be more behind these private encounters that hurt Cory deeply? What painful experiences pushed him to finally speak out after all these years? Let's uncover the hidden story, the wedding that almost was. Long before Meghan Markle became a global figure, long before royal titles and red carpet appearances, her life was already a whirlwind of ambition, charm, and calculated decisions. Every choice seemed deliberate, every encounter a stepping stone in the life she was building. Yet amidst this whirlwind, there was a chapter that few knew about, a chapter that almost changed the course of her future entirely. In the summer of 2014, just weeks before she would meet Prince Harry for the very first time, Meghan came dangerously close to marrying Canadian chef Corey Vitiello. Their 2-year relationship had been a defining period of her early adult life, shaping her routines, values, and personal growth. Together, they had navigated the highs and lows of young adulthood, exploring careers, cities, and dreams. At one point, the romance teetered on the brink of lifelong commitment, a possibility that could have dramatically altered the path Meghan would eventually take. During this time, Meghan was traveling across Canada, documenting her experiences for her now-defunct lifestyle blog, The Tig. She visited numerous restaurants, meeting the people who brought them to life, and observing more than just food. She observed passion, character, and dedication. Among them, Cory stood out, not merely for his culinary skill, but for the essence of who he was as a person. Meghan even highlighted him in her blog, writing, "And maybe that's part of it." The small-town charm and moral compass of someone who doesn't come from the big city, but dreams big thoughts. Those words hinted at the admiration and respect that ran deeper than casual affection. This glimpse into Meghan's pre-royal life reveals just how intertwined Cory was in her personal world. He wasn't simply a boyfriend. He was a partner during formative years, someone present during the moments that quietly shaped her future. His eventual silence, maintained for years, and the revelations he later chose to share, carry enormous weight today. What was once a private chapter of her life has now transformed into a flashpoint, a moment with the potential to shake decades of carefully curated public narrative, reminding the world that even the most polished image has hidden powerful histories beneath the surface. Cory could have married Meghan before Harry ever entered the picture. But what steps did King Charles take to verify these claims? What did his investigation uncover? And how did the palace respond to this startling revelation? Now, let's dive into how King Charles reacted to Meghan's Canadian ex. The palace, on high alert. Across the Atlantic, Buckingham Palace watched the situation with intense focus. Every statement, every subtle revelation from Corey Vitiello was logged, analyzed, and debated in the hushed corridors of the historic institution. For King Charles, a man deeply aware of the delicate balance between public perception and institutional integrity, the matter was far from trivial. Even what might seem like private disputes could quickly become national or even constitutional crises if mishandled. The monarchy's reputation, carefully cultivated over centuries, was never something that could withstand unchecked controversy. Daily briefings began flagging Corey Vitiello's name under the category of institutional risk. Advisors and legal experts ran through every conceivable scenario, analyzing how his statements, documents, and potential follow-ups could affect the crown. The discussions weren't hypothetical. They were urgent. Every advisor understood that a single misstep in response could spiral into a public relations disaster with long-lasting consequences for both Meghan and the monarchy itself. Then came a rare, decisive move. King Charles reportedly picked up the phone and called California personally. The message was clear, direct, and unmistakable. The Crown would not cover up or protect any secrets that predated Meghan's entry into royal life. Any evidence that could undermine the institution's credibility would be met with firm action, including revoked titles, lost privileges, and formal distancing. The call sent a signal not just to Meghan, but to her entire team. The monarchy's priority was stability, not personal loyalty. Yet while the palace made its position known, it also chose silence as a strategic weapon. No press conferences, no public condemnations, no sensational statements. Instead, the quiet response carried its own weight, a sharp and deliberate form of pressure. For Meghan, the silence was deafening, a reminder that she now faced this storm largely on her own. The message could not have been more brutal. The monarchy would protect itself first, and anyone threatening that stability, even a duchess, would not be shielded from the consequences. In a world where appearances often matter more than reality, Buckingham's restrained but unwavering stance sent shockwaves. Cory's revelations had set off alarms at the highest level, and the monarchy's response made it unmistakably clear. The game had changed, and the rules were firmly in the king's hands. The monarchy moved quickly to protect the institution, regardless of who was involved after Cory's revelation. But where does Harry fit into this tense situation? Could these revelations make him more protective of his wife, or might they drive him to keep his distance? Let's find out. A marriage, tested by truth. Inside the sun-drenched Montecito villa, the storm created by Corey Vitiello's revelations hit closest to home. Prince Harry, a man who had long taken up the mantle of defender for Meghan in the media, now found himself facing allegations so specific and detailed that they could not be dismissed. Timelines he had never scrutinized, names he had only heard in passing, and legal irregularities buried in obscure documents suddenly demanded his attention. This was not the distant gossip of tabloids or online speculation. These were pointed questions about the very fabric of their shared history. Harry's response was not explosive anger. It was quiet, subtle, and profoundly telling. Instead of confrontation, he withdrew. Family dinners became tense, filled with awkward silences that stretched long into the night. Hours were spent alone on balconies overlooking the Pacific, a place where he could think, weigh facts, and try to reconcile what he was learning with the woman he had promised to stand beside. Every glance between them carried unspoken weight. Every shared space became a reminder of the growing emotional distance. Trust, as Harry came to realize, does not shatter in a single instant. It erodes slowly, like water wearing away stone, almost imperceptibly, until the foundation that once felt unbreakable suddenly feels fragile. The man who had always been Meghan's staunch ally in public was now quietly reassessing the very foundation of their life together. Questions that had never crossed his mind before about timing, transparency, and past relationships began to take shape. Living under the same roof, yet existing in emotionally separate worlds, Harry and Meghan found themselves navigating a new, unexpected challenge. This was the personal toll of public scandal, the intimate consequences that no statement or social media post could capture. The impact of Cory's words had extended far beyond headlines and press releases. It was a test of loyalty, a test of love, and a moment that would leave lingering echoes in the most private corners of their lives. In Montecito, what was once a home filled with warmth and shared dreams had become a space of quiet reflection, unanswered questions, and the heavy, almost invisible weight of doubt. Harry's response to Cory's revelation was one of withdrawal, creating distance from his wife. But how has the public reacted to these disclosures? Do they believe Cory's account, or do they continue to defend Meghan? Let's dive into how Cory's silence has shifted perceptions of the Meghan. Public opinion fractures. Across the globe, eyes and ears were glued to every development. News outlets buzzed, social media feeds erupted, and discussion boards became arenas of intense debate. Corey Vitiello's decision to speak after years of silence sent shockwaves far beyond Canada and California. For the first time, what had been private history now had the power to shape public perception, and it did so with subtle but undeniable force. Supporters of Meghan rushed to her defense, framing Cory's revelations as the calculated actions of a spurned former partner. They painted him as someone venting old frustrations, attempting to cast a shadow over her life, now intertwined with royalty. On the other hand, critics pounced on the opportunity to question her transparency, puzzled and intrigued by how a woman who had built a carefully curated, almost flawless public persona could have kept such critical chapters of her past hidden from view. Cory's strategy was what made the situation even more potent. He never shouted, never lashed out, and never sought to dominate headlines with melodrama. Instead, he chose calm, measured words delivered with precision. Each statement, each carefully framed observation carried weight and invited scrutiny. His restraint lent an air of credibility to his claims that was impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Meghan's team reacted swiftly and forcefully, labeling his statements as fabrications, but in doing so they revealed the tension beneath the surface. The more reactive the denials, the more they seemed to confirm that the revelations had hit a nerve. Suddenly, public perception began to shift. Where once charisma, charm, and personal story had guided the narrative, now credibility had become the defining lens through which she was judged. Questions were asked not about her intentions, but about the accuracy and completeness of her public image. The Duchess of Sussex, whose every move had previously commanded admiration and intrigue, now found herself under a relentless microscope. Every word she had spoken, every account she had crafted, was examined for consistency, integrity, and truth. In a world where image and reputation often dominate, Cory's quiet, calculated disclosures had accomplished something powerful. They had shifted the focus from glamour to reality, from persona to authenticity, and from unquestioned admiration to cautious skepticism. Meghan's story, once seemingly untouchable, now faced a scrutiny that could reshape her public image for years to come. The revelation from Cory has divided the public on how to view Meghan. But is he holding back even more devastating details? Could these disclosures rewrite the way the world perceives her? And what psychological impact might this have on the Duchess herself? Now let's explore how Cory's restraint has become Meghan's greatest challenge: the psychological edge. Just as the world braced for what many expected to be a shocking revelation, Corey Vitiello chose a path that was unexpected but far more potent. Reports suggested he possessed original documents, private messages, legal records, and other materials that could have definitively confirmed every claim he made. These were not mere allegations. They were potential evidence capable of rewriting the story of Meghan's past. Yet, despite holding such powerful tools, Cory refrained from unleashing them. There were no press conferences, no social media storms, no dramatic public exposure. He simply stayed silent. This deliberate restraint transformed the situation. By withholding the most explosive information, Cory created a tension that was both psychological and relentless. Meghan and Harry were left navigating a landscape of uncertainty, never knowing what could surface next. For the public, this created a narrative filled with anticipation, speculation, and unease. Every unanswered question, every gap in the story became a source of intrigue and doubt. Cory's silence was no passive act. It was a strategic move, a quiet but powerful form of control. The consequences were immediate and far-reaching. Meghan's credibility, once carefully constructed and polished over the years, began to erode in the eyes of an increasingly skeptical public. Prince Harry, accustomed to defending his wife in moments of media scrutiny, found his trust strained, his certainty shaken. Across the Atlantic, Buckingham Palace maintained a calculated distance, signaling that the stakes were not personal but institutional. Cory's quiet reserve became a weapon, an invisible force that reminded everyone involved that the past was not entirely settled, and that one misstep could have enormous consequences. In the end, there was no dramatic explosion, no single revelation that could be pointed to as the defining moment. Instead, the story unfolded as a slow-burning crisis, one measured in anxiety, speculation, and psychological weight. The absence of action amplified the pressure, proving that sometimes what is left unsaid carries more power than what is shouted from the rooftops. For Meghan, Harry, and the monarchy, the unresolved tension was the ultimate challenge. In situations like this, uncertainty is not just uncomfortable, it is devastating, shaping decisions, testing relationships, and altering reputations in ways that a single disclosure never could. So, what do you make of Meghan's ex-boyfriend's revelation? Could he be holding back even more shocking details? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.